All right, folks, welcome to the R Squared Podcast version 5 rookie season. Hope everybody's doing well out there. A few more topics to talk about before the NFL season training camp is starting. We're hearing about all the new players reporting to camp. I know here in Cincinnati, Joe Burrow is at camp along with the rookies and things like that. That we are hearing some news about college football, so we're going to get into that here in a little bit. And again, welcome to episode 5. I'm going to kick it off, and I would tell everybody I am drinking single malt whiskey from New Riff. This is there's some ice melted in here. It has some hints of vanilla and things like that. Not mixed with anything. So yes, got a half glasser there, mixed with ice. I'm really into this one. It's from right over the river from where I am here in Newport, Kentucky. Rahul, what about you? Are you drinking anything right now?
I am actually drinking Men's Room Red by Elysian, their local brewery to the Washington area. And the story behind the Men's Room is they are a radio show, afternoon talk show on a rock station here in Seattle, 99.9, but they're nationwide. So for is basically three guys, and they just talk about whatever. It's just hilarious. Just Google Men's Room network, a Men's Room show, and you'll find it. Affiliate near you or listen online. I highly recommend it. I I fell in love with this show back in 2006 when I first, no, sorry, yeah, 2006 when we first came out here, and I've been listening ever since. It's a phenomenal show.
I'm sure it's on iHeart. So, Rahul, here's the thing. Kind of getting into college football. We were talking about this off air. Coming in, I think it was Thursday morning. It was announced that Texas and Oklahoma, the University of Texas Longhorns and Oklahoma Sooners, have kind of teamed up, and they've begun talks, and they're pretty serious, Rahul, about leaving the Big 12. So, folks out there, if you haven't paid attention, the Big 12 actually only has 10 schools. For some reason, they never changed the name to something else. And now the 10 might be 8 because these two schools here in the next 2-3 years are thinking about buying out their contract with the Big 12 and joining the SEC. And for a minimal sum, I'll get it, folks, $76 million each. Chump change, I guess, for the SEC folks. I think they just a nickel in the well for them. So, Rahul, what do you think the implications of this are?
First of all, the other incorrect named conference is a Big Ten, which has 14 teams, but they never changed it. They went from Big 10 to Big 11, now Big 14, and the Big 12 might go down to Big 8. I think it will finally cause the shift in college football, which everyone thought Nebraska leaving the Big 12 for Big 10 would cause. But this will shake up, and also there have been rumors that the SEC has been talking to Notre Dame, Clemson, Ohio State, Michigan. I'm sorry, not Notre Dame, Florida State, Michigan, Ohio State, and Clemson to join the SEC and do a mega conference, 20-team mega conference. I don't know what I mean. That had huge implications. But then the big the two blue chip schools from Big Ten will be gone. Um, the two traditional two teams with history and national champions from the ACC will be gone. So it will start domino effect like no other. Be total chaos for a period of time. Um, what it comes down to is all about the money. The SEC, they think they'll make more money and they'll be better off. But I don't understand how having so many good teams in one conference will work. Before I heard that the SEC was talking to the other four schools, and I thought Oklahoma and Texas going to SEC and stop there. I think for Ohio State, for Michigan, for Pac-12, for ACC, that would have been awesome because that's one less conference that we competed for the playoffs because the two premier schools will be the SEC and they would play Alabama. So whoever comes to the SEC will be the best school out of the SEC. Period. So it'll be easier to pass the playoffs. But now since they're talking to Ohio State, Michigan, Clemson, and Florida State, this will we end up with a 20 team conference? 4 20 team conference? Sorry, 4 conferences with 20 teams. I'm sorry, I got
Yeah.
confused. And so that means there's 60 teams. Will they break up with break away from NCAA and form their own thing, which they talked about this 20 years ago when Nebraska was leaving the Big 12.
Yeah, I mean, the implications are huge. Rahul, so tell me, uh, the way the current playoff system is, I know it's always been Final Four here ever since the BCS left us. What is it going to be? 12 teams?
Yeah, 12 teams. But that's before all this stuff happened. This could change everything. Yeah, the first playoff was 2014. Which Ohio State won. So, and I mean, I'm just trying to think what's going to happen to the small guys. I mean, what's going to happen to Appalachian State, Ohio University, Cincinnati. Um, who else?
But
Go ahead.
they were never part of the playoffs in the
No,
first
no,
place, though.
oh, I'm sorry. If I'm talking about playoffs, I was just saying what's going to happen if they go to 20 team SEC. What's going to happen to the small schools? Those will they get decimated or what's going to happen to them?
I don't know if anything will happen to them. You can share why you think something might happen to somebody like Appalachian State. But so, Rahul, again, it'd be 12 teams in the playoffs.
In the current format, 12 teams. If it goes forward,
Okay, and when
looks
does
like
that
12
start?
last month. Hmm?
When does that start?
Uh, it will. It won't. It will start. They say minimum of 2 years, maybe 5 years away.
The 12-team playoff might be 5 years away, so it's not decided when it starts.
No, because they what happened in June, the committee proposed anywhere from a 6 team to a 18 team, I believe, 18 team playoff scenario. They sell on 12. Now they're going to give another presentation in July or August, and then they'll start considering it seriously with the different athletic directors and the networks and all that. So it won't be finalized at the earliest until the end of this college football season. And after that, it might be
Okay,
2 years of media contracts for them to hammer that out, or it might be when this contract expires in 5 or 6 years that then it might happen.
so we're years away from the 12-team playoff,
Yes,
correct?
at least a
We're
couple years.
years away from it.
Yeah,
Okay, so if this happens, the SEC ends up happening. And by the way, SEC has how many teams right now? 14 or 12?
14,
We have
14.
14 right now. I say we. You might see the Kentucky in my background. That's my background, Kentucky. So if you now have 16 teams and then you add even more, yes, you'll have a gigantic mega conference. Basically, all I could think of that will happen here is that you're going to have a playoff with primarily SEC teams in it,
Right.
right? And what might actually benefit other large schools is that they now might have a slightly better chance to even get in the playoffs. So let's say if you have a 12-team playoff, well, now USC and UCLA could be able to have a shot to be in it every year. Unlike now, where if a West Coast team has 2 losses, they're out. And then if you think about it, whatever they rename the Big Ten to, or if they don't rename it, let's just say TSU, not TSU, TCU. Let's just say TCU or Texas Tech or Kansas somehow or Oklahoma State gets hot and has 1 loss. Well, let's just face it. Right now, if Kansas all of a sudden had only 1 or 2 losses, they probably still wouldn't make the Final Four. Now they
Right.
will. At the end of the day, is our national champion going to change? Probably not. I can see that what they're trying to do here is that when you look at the like an Alabama schedule, Alabama still has to play my school where I went to school, Kentucky. They have to play, not every year, but it's every on and off year. But they have some games where they just obliterate people, right? In addition to those 2 or 3 gimmies at the beginning of the year. Well, now it could be, let's just say it's 2028 and this is going on. They could play the three gimmies, and then they could have a season where they play Oklahoma, Texas, Auburn, Florida, Georgia, LSU, all in the same regular season. So all they're doing is money, money, money. And those ratings, at least in the first few matchups, will be through the roof. Imagine a Saturday night game in November, Oklahoma versus Alabama.
Right.
So it's all about money. That's why they're doing it.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, I agree. It's all about money. Unfortunately, that's all. But the thing is how okay, Texas is in a precarious situation because Texas, when we were growing up, was along with Nebraska, along with Ohio State, Alabama, were considered blue chips. Always compete for national championship, always doing well. Now at Texas, I mean, Texas has been in a precarious situation past few years after Mac Brown left, right? I
Yeah.
mean, so if they go SEC and they can't figure it out, they fall further behind with Alabama, and Texas A&M, Florida, Georgia. They may become an also ran. They may become what they may become what Michigan is right now. You still have great history now. I mean, it's a mediocre school. I mean, they're trying to change it, and I hope they do because as an Ohio State fan, a strong Michigan team is always good for the Big Ten and good for Ohio State. Um, but if they fall further behind, Texas becomes a mediocre team. How will they compete in the SEC? How? I mean, I don't think they even compete in the Pac-12 or the ACC, let alone the SEC or Big Ten, the way they are now.
So I think you have to have the right coach, and you
Mm-hmm.
have to have the right recruiter to be able to get the right folks in there. So let's just talk about what's not changed. Okay, where are the best high school football players in the United States right now? And this is the way it's been for the last 30 years
Right.
or longer, really. I mean, Florida, no matter what, Florida's got the best talent.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Texas, California, where you used to live and where I live now, Ohio, and then a few other places, right? What the
Right.
SEC has been doing, contrary to popular belief, Alabama, their high school football is okay. It's nothing compared to Florida, nothing compared to Texas. Alabama's been plucking these people from Texas and plucking people from Florida as well. You know, their games are on ESPN Saturday night. The commercials even say, that's up for debate, but on my side, I would agree. Uh, Saturday night with the best conference. The
Right.
ESPN says things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So now, if Texas joins that league and says, "Hey, we're part of the best conference too. We're going to be under the lights. We're going to be on ESPN on Saturday night." You don't have to go to LSU. You don't have to go to Alabama. Stay in Texas. Stay with us. So you never know. Now Oklahoma, um, I think they have a lot of tradition. Oklahoma high school football, I don't think it compares. So I think there is a benefit for those two schools. I think more Texas than Oklahoma. Right now, with Texas kind of like as you said being mediocre, Oklahoma has just been running it for the
Oh yeah.
last 10, 15 years. Um, since Mac Brown left, as you said, since
Right.
that Vince Young team, you got the Sam Bradford, Baker Mayfield, you got Kyler Murray, all these teams, but guess what? No national championship.
Right. I mean, and and here's another thing. People think when Nick Saban retires, Alabama will fall off. I don't agree with that. I think Nick Saban will do the same thing Bob Stoops and Urban Meyer did when they left their respective schools, Oklahoma and Ohio State. He will find a coach, up and coming coach on his staff, and put him as head coach when he finally rides off. Might not be tomorrow, might be 5 years from now, but when he finally rides off sunset, that's what happened. And Alabama won't fall off. They either stay where they are or get better because these are fresh blood. So people hoping Alabama fall off when Saban retires. That will not happen. They'll continue rolling, and I think they'll be even better. Like like I believe Ryan Day is a better recruiter than Urban Meyer was. Um,
Okay.
coach wise, he will get there. I mean, he just lacks experience. Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, he has not lost a Big Ten game. He lost the two games he lost were to Clemson, which he beat his second year there, and Alabama in the national championship. So it's not like he lost to a bunch of chumps. He lost to 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 the to national title winner and a national title runner up past 2 years. He beat Michigan once. He would beat them twice if they played last year. So and same thing's gonna happen to Alabama. So as you said, Oklahoma and from in my opinion, Oklahoma and Texas makes their road to the college football playoff, whether 12 teams or 4 teams, that much harder going to SEC because they'll play better competition. They'll
That's
play.
true.
They have to play the 800-pound gorilla in Alabama either every year or every other year or in the SEC championship, and it makes the road easier for the Pac-12, um, the Big Ten, and the ACC. That
Yeah,
much easier,
that's
and I
correct.
think
And I
so.
think that they're ready for drama. I mean, what do you do if Michigan State has one loss, right? Let's just say you have an undefeated Alabama,
Mhm.
you have a one loss Florida, you have a one loss LSU, and you have a one loss Michigan State, but you got a two loss Texas.
Right,
And Texas's two losses are to Florida and Alabama, something like that, right?
or Florida LSU or Alabama LSU, yeah,
Yeah. So what do you do then? So I think that they're, all that to us, to the casual fan, it's like we want things kind of fair and we just want to see the right people in the right slots. But you know what? What ESPN is thinking and what media is thinking, what people at Twitter, they're thinking they want more drama. They want more people talking. They want
right,
more people hyping it up and more eyes on what Herbie's going to say.
right,
What's he going to say between a one-loss Michigan State or Michigan versus a two-loss Texas team? So all
mhm,
again, it circles it back to money, money, money. But I do think I think you hit the nail on the head. I think, let's just say they come in 2025. I think Texas and Oklahoma, their programs are going to be in for a rude awakening.
I agree.
I think Oklahoma, especially, they have been able to just run it, and their style is different. Um, and when they play the likes of TCU and things like that, it's they just kill them by like 5, 6 touchdowns. You're not going to do that when you go into Baton Rouge on a Saturday night.
Yeah,
It's not going to
Bam
happen.
or
So I think that they're going to be shocked and they're going to be hit in the mouth. And I don't think they're going to make the playoffs the first couple of years. These folks, but eventually, money talks. Both universities have tons of money, and they eventually will come around and make it in the play. I do have Rahul. I have a little bit of a segue. So there's a gentleman named he works at Fox. His name is Colin. Very famous, right? He knows more about broadcasting than I know about anything in my life,
right.
right? He's been broadcasting for 30 years. He worked at ESPN, and he still works at Fox. He and I have the utmost respect for him. I listen to Colin every single day.
Him and
Uh,
Joel Klatt at Fox
yeah,
also. I
yeah.
love Joel Klatt also.
And Joe loves the Big Ten. He loves Ohio State, so I can see that. I think he played at Colorado.
Yeah, he's
But he,
QB at Colorado.
yeah, yeah. I
When
love
the
those guys, and I love hearing what they have to say. Um, and on some side notes, I kind of send their videos to you and some people at our uh, at our team here every now and then just to say, hey, look what Colin said yesterday. But in the last couple of days, I heard one take on Colin. So eh, I think we have to step up, and I'm gonna kind of combat him here. He said something that kind of irked me. He said Austin, Texas, as if it's Beverly Hills or something. Austin, Texas does not belong in the SEC, according to Colin. Austin, Texas, he says, he went to the game between Vince Young and Reggie Bush,
Yeah.
and he said they was full of stars, and he was full of people who are debonair and rich folks. They smelled good, they looked good, they were fit, they were affluent people. And he was in the Texas crowd. He loves Texas. He says that Austin, Texas is just too cool for the SEC.
And progressive,
It's
yes.
different and progressive. So, with that being said, is every single SEC town lumped into one type of town? Or are they different? And none of them are Austin, Texas, right? But is Oxford, Mississippi the same as Lexington, Kentucky? You know, Vanderbilt is in Nashville, which is an upcoming place. Is Nashville the same as Gainesville, Florida? No.
No.
So I just didn't understand his take that Texas cannot fit the SEC. He mentioned a lot about how Californians during the pandemic moved to Austin, and it just made it a more cool place to live. And it doesn't belong in the SEC. The SEC is this kind of cutthroat, and there's been cheating going on. It kind of seemed like he gave excuses for the SEC dominance over the last 10 to 12 years. I'll tell you what it is because the SEC's out recruiting everybody. Alabama's got a firm grip, and they have better facilities. You know, I know you're a Ohio State fan. Outside of Ohio State, let's just say that. And Texas got great facilities too, but I think Texas fits right in. You don't have to have the exact same type of town. And by the way, for you audience there, I love Austin, Texas, but it's not Beverly Hills. Rahul, have you ever been to Austin, Texas?
Yes, well, good friend of mine, one of good college buddies at Ohio State. He moved to Austin, got a job down there, and got married down there. And I went to his wedding in Austin, Texas. I think what Colin means by progressive is because Austin, Texas is one of the tech capitals in the nation after Silicon Valley. And I think he's just saying because a lot of money and wealth and progressive people that work in tech are moving there, the city just seems more like a West Coast city than a Southern city. I mean, it's
You
more
got
like
to have diversity. So
Silicon Valley, Seattle, um, Palo Alto. It seems more like that than than a city in Alabama or Louisiana. Um,
yeah, you
I
can
don't know.
tell the difference between Oxford and Starkville. You know, the it's a wild difference. You know, they say that Starkville, you're in a cow pasture, and then when you go to a Mississippi game at the Grove, everybody's wearing suit and ties and things like that. So I know that Austin, outside of college football, is getting tech and all that type of stuff like that. But I think that you should, Colin and others should embrace the differences between cities. You can't lump all cities in the SEC
No,
as one, and I don't see it being as much of a problem. Also, let's just be honest. I've been to Austin too. Gigantic homeless problem. A little bit dirtier than I thought. I thought it'd be kind of a little cool place. It was. I like the bars. I liked they got some good cool donut shops. They got, the barbecue's ridiculous.
yeah,
I love their breakfast tacos. They got food vendors everywhere. It's a unique place. But let's not act like there's not a little bit. There's some crime there, some dirt. Homeless homelessness is a little bit out of control. It's not as debonair as that guy thought proclaimed. I think
right,
there's some West Coast bias in that show, um, and I think that the SEC is perfectly fine, and it's good to have some diversity if you add Austin to it.
right. And the thing with the Big Ten, the SEC, and the Big 12, I don't know the ACC, but almost every town there is a football town. People go nuts after football. Um, Lincoln, Nebraska, not like Lincoln, right? Yeah, Lincoln, Nebraska, Columbus,
Yeah.
Ohio, um, what else? Iowa, Northwestern, um, Alabama, Kentucky, all of them. They love football. Even though Kentucky is a basketball school, but they love football too. There's Tennessee Titans fans, Cincinnati Bengals fans, Indianapolis fans, all over Lexington, just because Kentucky's a professional football team. So, and Texas loves football. Texas A&M, Texas Tech, University of Texas, TCU. While West Coast, people that are football that were more fair weather fans. I moved to the Seattle area first time in 2006 when the Seahawks were just right after Seahawks lost the Super Bowl to Pittsburgh. Remember?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Um, and they were more fair weather fans, and all they talked about on their sports radio was how loud their stadium could be. Now they have now since Pete Carroll came in, Russell Wilson, and they actually have a more consistent team winning. They become a football town, but the West Coast is if the sports supply is not good, they'll find something else to do. They'll go climb a mountain. They'll go hike a trail. They'll do everything. Seattle's become more a sports town because they're getting hockey this upcoming next season with the Krakens, and I think in 2 years they'll have NBA back here. So Seattle will be a four-sport city with
Should
the
be.
Mariners, Seahawks, Krakens, and whoever replaces the Sonics. So, but college football, you got Huskies the Washington Huskies and the University of Washington Huskies and the Washington State Cougars, right? The
Yeah.
two major schools. And if they're not doing well, no one other than alumni, no one cares. I mean, the Apple Cup takes place, and half the time you don't know about it because most teams aren't that good. Well, even though Michigan's horrible, not horrible, Michigan's not the best, but still they take the game seriously. Ohio State and Michigan take the game seriously, no matter what team's good and what team's bad. The Iron Bowl, even if Auburn lost all those games, they'll still take it seriously. While so the East Coast, Texas, and the Midwest take their sports a lot more seriously than West Coast. So
Seems like that, but see, remember, Colin, Austin's not on the West Coast. I know a few tech people are coming into Austin. Um, it's still going to be in Texas.
mhm.
Texas is number one or number two in high school football, and California is too, to be honest. But it's the because of the talent in California, but the crowds and the size of the high school stadiums and everything in
Oh yeah,
Texas.
that's 35. It's just
The
35,000 feet high school stadium in Texas.
Yeah.
35,000 in high school. Some colleges don't have stadiums that big.
Yeah. So bottom line for me, I think that Austin can fit in with the SEC. I
Mhm.
don't think it's as uh, gigantic of a difference as Colin says, and I think it's okay to have a little bit of diversity. I realize Starkville and Austin are different, but why do you want to have the same type of town for every single matchup? It's okay. So I think Austin fits. I don't think Norman. I mean, I think Norman is just like any other small town in the southeast. Um, but I think again, like I said earlier, I think Oklahoma's going to have a tougher time. They have a little bit less money. They don't have the in-state bragging rights, the in-state high school football power like Texas does. I think Texas, in the long run, in the really long run, could benefit from all this and be a powerhouse like they once were.
Okay. Can we talk about two more things before we sign off?
Go for it.
First one is okay with the new NIL coming out and college players getting paid. Apparently the I forget his name, but the Alabama quarterback for next season already signed a deal for $1 million,
Yep.
and Rattler is getting the same amount of money, all that stuff. So the NCAA should stop beating around the bush and saying college football is a non-profit sport, and all the colleges reorganize for with a for-profit governance board, because we gotta stop kidding ourselves now that college football is a non-profit sport. It's a for-profit sport, especially with NIL happening and these billions of dollars flowing from one conference to another. from TV rights and all that. So stop the charade and make a for profit and run it like a Fortune 500 company, and I think that will help out all the schools involved, and they're all going to be paid fairly, and and they should put us in charge.
Yeah, yeah, let's do it. I
Yeah.
do think the name, image, likeness is going to catch on even more.
Mhm.
I do think that there's going to be a lot of people a little bit more happy than in the past. And I'm glad that that quarterback out of Alabama is already a millionaire.
Will be
Could
soon.
be. And one thing that could change here is that if you're already a millionaire and you are playing at Alabama, LSU, Ohio State, do you stay in school one more year because you love the atmosphere, you love college? I mean, you're already a millionaire. Instead of being cut by the Cleveland Browns, now you're already a millionaire. You're the big man on campus at Alabama, and you might not be when you go to the Bengals or the Browns. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I do think it's a positive thing for society. It's a positive thing for collegiate athletics.
It's capitalism at its best, in my opinion. I think right now the contract will be overvalued just because it's brand new and everyone wants to get in on anything because and not be left out. Then I think like 3 to 5 years it will level off and become more sane. Uh,
Yes, I think it's gonna the bubble will burst a little bit.
yeah,
Yeah.
and more rules may put in. They may put in that the players will have so much money during a college term, and then they won't be able to access the lump sum until they're done with college or the eligibility is done for college. Who knows? So so that'll be interesting what it works out and for because of that they should put down a charade that they're nonprofit and just go in and do proper and I think everyone will benefit from blue chips all the way to the smaller people the power the group of five will benefit everyone will benefit and everyone will be happy like basically do a commissioner and do the NFL style. The NFL does just 32 teams, and do the same thing in college and run it that way. It might be painful. It might take some time, but I think it'd be better for other things. The second thing I want to ask is if you're in charge of college football right now, how would you reorganize college football? What's your dream scenario for the conference, for the teams, for everything? How would you do it?
If I was in charge of college football in a hypothetical scenario, is that what you're saying?
Yes,
One
if
thing that irks me is that when like the ACC plucks somebody from like the Midwest, like ACC and college basketball has Louisville. I don't like it. Louisville's not on the Atlantic coast. Um, I would realign to make sure. I'm old school. I like the geographical regions. It kind of makes more sense for Nebraska to be in the Big 12 than the Big 10, things like
right,
that. So, I mean, if it was a perfect world, I'd do that. I do. I can't even admit that I'm saying this, but in a way, I do like the idea of, especially Texas coming into the SEC. Um, I do like the 12 team playoff. I think that needs to stay the same.
I think we need more
I'm
16.
glad that they did that. That needs to start sooner than later. And then they should keep they should keep the same amount of bowls as well, because like you said, the small, not smaller, but traditionally not as much of a powerhouse, Appalachian State, Cincinnati, Louisville, Virginia, something like that, if they want to be able to get into a nice bowl so their alumni and fans and family can enjoy a trip to Florida and be on a nationally televised game, that should continue. And I don't think
Okay.
that should stop whatsoever. What about you?
Okay, this is what I do. I used the European style of soccer idea.
Mm-hmm.
Have have four 20 team conferences, right?
Okay.
But have all football teams involved. If you have a record above certain 500 or whatever, you stay in one of those four conferences and can compete in playoffs. If you fall off for more than 2 years or whatever, you get relegated down to a lower conference, and someone gets relegated up, and then they have a chance to compete for the national championship.
Okay, so if you're Kentucky and Kentucky just all of a sudden they lose Mark Stoops, who's a fantastic coach, by the way. Kentucky should not be able to beat Virginia Tech and Penn State in bowl games here, but we are. So let's say Kentucky loses Mark Stoops to Michigan, could happen, and all of a sudden Kentucky has 2 or 3 losing seasons, and Western Kentucky goes undefeated. So
Yeah.
are you saying that Kentucky would then go to the Sun Belt Conference and Western Kentucky would go to the SEC?
Yeah, yeah, go to the Division II conference or lower conference, the Group of Five conference, and Western Kentucky, and if they improve themselves, they stay. If not, then they get relegated down. That way, there's a lot of schools that are just staying there for the money and not necessarily putting money towards the football program, in my opinion. And this way, that will prevent that from happening. And the schools take football more seriously. And the thing is, and when they do, will get paid more money because if you're in the SEC, Big Ten, uh, Pac-12, whatever, you get paid more money than someone in the Sun Belt or WAC conference, right?
Yes.
Or or
Yes.
or
Okay.
MAC.
Well, then you're saying money will be an incentive, right?
Yeah,
As in
and
the
also
past, it
for
would not be because everything was free.
yeah for the schools, yes, but for the players, it would be competing for a national championship. Because even if you go undefeated at Western Kentucky, you're not in the one of 4 conferences. You're shut out of the playoffs and chance to go national championship.
Yeah. Well, that'd be amazing. I'd
Yeah,
agree with it.
yeah, and I mean, and if a major school falls off, and I mean, what if Ohio State? Because what if Ohio State, whoever replaces Ryan Day, doesn't do that good, has 2 or 3 losing seasons, and they get relegated to a lower conference. That'd be interesting to see.
It'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, so I
Imagine
mean,
Ohio State being part of the Sun Belt and playing Western Kentucky. You never
exactly.
know. 10 years from now, that might happen.
Yeah,
Probably not. Ohio State's here to stay. But yeah, interesting scenario, Rahul.
yeah, and that's why I do it. And I mean, and I think also I think that will also even out disparity in with you won't have the you still have Alabama, but I think the recruits will be willing to go to different places than the top schools just because they have a chance. And I think that doesn't happen with the 12 or 16, 12, and I think it should be 16 team playoff. I think that's what's gonna happen, and it's gonna be fantastic to watch. I mean, even though I like the way the college football is now, but change could be good. Who knows? Maybe the 20 team mega conference might work. Who knows? Let's see what happens, and just be willing to change and adapt to whatever the landscape happens. It's gonna be fun 5 or 10 years, and we'll see what college football is in 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, I think it'd be a really exciting regular season for
Mhm.
sure. And you're
Yeah,
gonna have some awesome matchups. But just imagine, like, I'm a gigantic college football fan, and SEC for me. Even though I'm a little bit coming back to Ohio State like I was a long time ago. But just can you imagine just on a Saturday night, you've got LSU versus Oklahoma, Texas versus Alabama on a random Saturday night in October. That'd be amazing.
yep, and same time Ohio State versus Florida,
If they,
Michigan,
yeah, I would tell
Michigan.
you this. I have a hard time believing, especially Notre Dame. Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Michigan too. I just don't see them coming to the SEC. I think the Earth's got to just change for that to happen. Texas and Oklahoma, they still regionally are, in some people's eyes, the South.
Right.
You got Michigan in the SEC, Southeastern Conference, and you're talking about Ann Arbor, Michigan. I just
Mm.
got to change the name of the conference or something. I just don't see that
Well,
happening.
the Big Ten has 14 teams and Big 12 has 10. If 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 Texas and Oklahoma do jump, and Ohio State and Michigan stay where they are, I think the Big Ten should go grab West Virginia and Baylor and make them the 15th and 16th team in the Big Ten.
That'd be pretty cool. I do like that. I do like that.
Because
And
yeah,
Baylor, especially that area of the country, like we were talking about earlier with Austin, the Waco area, the Dallas area. That is a very up and coming area.
Mm.
More people are living there. More talent is from there. It's an up and coming school. You just saw them win the national championship in basketball, so that would be pretty cool as an addition to the Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. I mean, there's so many things that could happen. I mean, it's gonna be insane. I mean, it's gonna be fun to watch, and I mean, it could be as soon as next week that the Oklahoma and Texas say no to renewing their media rights to the Big 12 and announce they're joining the SEC in the near future. Um, the Big 12, the Big 12 covenant or whatever they call it, you gotta give 18 months in advance before leaving the conference. So we'll see how that works out, and we'll see the media rights deal. I mean, 76 million. I mean, might not be a drop in a bucket, but the thing is, you gotta remember, like when Nebraska, Rutgers, and Maryland joined the Big Ten, it took them 5 years before they got 100% of the cut of the revenue for the Big Ten network. And the same thing's gonna happen
Huh.
with Texas, Oklahoma. They will have work. It's going to be a tier system. It's going to be 5 years before they start seeing all the money from the SEC, media rights, bowl games, whatever, till they come to the school. So we'll see what happens. So they want to leave sooner, but I guarantee you the Big 12 will make it as hard as possible, painful as possible for them to leave, just because they're scared and they don't want, and they will fall apart if those two schools leave.
Yeah, two biggest schools possible. The Big 12 will be done.
Mhm.
You know, they'll have to pick up some small North Texas or something like that to
Well,
fill in. You never know, but yeah, I think they'll be obliterated.
and also, I mean, it reported that Texas A&M and Missouri are against Texas and Oklahoma joining. And apparently, you only need 4 votes in the SEC to 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 push the school back from joining the conference.
Well, you got to think about Texas A&M. I mean, their recruiting pitch right now is we're the only Texas school in the SEC. That's their
Right,
biggest recruiting push,
right.
and they would be the second biggest school then.
You know, and Texas A&M loves this football. I mean, I mean the holler session at midnight. I mean, there's so much tradition. I mean, it's awesome. My friend who's an Ohio State fan in Austin, his wife is a Texas A&M fan or went there, so she knows the tradition of Texas A&M also, and he knows also, and they both don't like Texas just because Ohio State and Texas A&M. So we'll see. I mean, what happens happens. Hopefully, it all works out for everyone involved. But as a college football fan, I hope the results are net positive for the sport.
Absolutely. Well, cheers, Rahul. I should have killed this by now. Got a
All
little
right,
bit left. Um, New Riff is not paying me, but I am a big fan of New Riff Distillery in Newport, Kentucky.
yep, and I'm a big fan of Allegiance men's room in Washington State because they're great beer, great show, and it's a good time. And they support our vets. They portion of the proceeds
That's
from
good.
the go to the Fish House, which helps out vets in the Washington area. So that's
Very
why.
cool. Very cool. God bless the USA. Now, next time, we are running out of time. I did want to talk a little bit about the Olympics. Well, let's cut that off for next week.
Yep. Take care, Robbie. Good night, and I'll see you later.
We'll talk to you later.
Take
Till the
care.
next edition. Thank you.